Well, hello, Lars Heikensten, former CEO of the Nobel Foundation. The Nobel Prize, known as the world's most prestigious award. You've been heading this organization and the foundation for quite some time. I wonder, there is a tension between staying the same and change, continuity and change. You have been working with this Nobel Prize and the Nobel Foundation. What are your thoughts about the tension between continuity and change?
Well, I suppose this is an issue for almost every organization to consider, and what is perhaps a little bit peculiar with the Nobel Foundation is that its name is so connected with its legacy. So continuity is really, in that sense, very much built into who we are. And of course, given the position that you refer to, making major changes is something one need to think through very much. So far I don't think we've felt the need for really doing something drastic. And even if I look into the future, I think that what we stand for and what we are is something which is likely to be continue to be important. That doesn't mean that we do not need to stay relevant. And for example, I think that the Nobel Foundation was perceived by many people as more mysterious, perhaps, than it needs to be. I think we need to be open and direct and find ways to communicate that we didn't do before. Also we have chosen to develop new activities to help us reach out and project this.
Yes, I think that has been
that we are in tune with time, as it were.
Right. I mean, that has been during your the time as the CEO of the foundation. You have been working very hard with what you call the outreach. And that was also about relevance. Can you tell us a bit more why this is important in your view?
Well, I mean, fundamentally, we have the prize because Alfred Nobel created it. And Alfred Nobel was a person who wanted these prizes to be given to those who had done the greatest benefit to humankind, as he said. And it's not a regular competition or anything of that kind. He had an idea that he, through these prizes, wanted to make a world a better place, essentially. And I think that had he known the position we have today, he would very much have wanted us to in other ways, with the help of who we are, promote the values he wanted to promote. And those are things like, rational thinking, the importance of science and education, the need to think about human rights and work for peace, etc.
So the famous and well-known words of Alfred Nobel, for the benefit of mankind, or actually humankind nowadays. What is the importance of that sentence for the rather complex set of organizations and institutions awarding the Nobel Prize?
Well, to fulfill that, I think we first of all, we need to do what we are there to do, and give out prizes to those who have fulfilled these ideals of his. As long as we do that, I think we are likely to stay in a good position. And that requires, as I alluded to before, it requires us not only to choose perhaps the people who are most deeply, done the deepest theoretical things always, but also to consider that the things are relevant and mean something to people. And there I think we help by the fact that we have prizes in science, but we also have the Nobel Prize in the Peace Prize that is very topical often and seem to be very relevant. So the combination of prizes is actually an important factor.
If we consider the words of Alfred Nobel as some sort of glue that keeps the system together, sometimes there can be tensions also in your universe, so to speak. For instance, the Swedish Academy and also the Karolinska Institute incident, but you actually acted at the time. Why did you feel that it was necessary for the foundation to act?
Well, it's a complicated organization, and the prize rewarding institutions, Karolinska, as you mentioned, for example, of the Swedish Academy, are very important for the system. They are the ones who choose the laureates, and that is, in a sense, the most fundamental and important task we are doing. At the same time, the Nobel Foundation has, according to the Swedish law, the responsibility for seeing to or overseeing how the will is being implemented. So we are chosen by a council of people from the prize rewarding institutions, but at the same time, it is our task to see to that they are sticking to the will, as it were.
Yeah.
When we had the difficulties in the Swedish Academy, we in the foundation thought that it was good for the Academy itself, but perhaps in this case more important for the Nobel Prize, that we actually draw a line and said we cannot do things as you are doing them. We have to do them a different way, and that's what we communicate.
Yes. No, I remember following this in different ways, but also through media, of course. But I think there was this saying, one rotten apple spoils the barrel. So, I mean, the reputation and the identity and the position is in a way shared. And from research, we know that internationally, people think of the Nobel Prize as one. Is that a problem?
Well, it was a problem in this case. I think to the Swedish public, we could reasonably well communicate that most people knew, I think, that the Swedish Academy was a separate entity, and the problems were not in the core of the Nobel Prize, as it were. It was a problem which was specific to the Swedish Academy in this particular time. I still think it was, even though we tried, I think it was difficult to read out internationally with this. And there, the Swedish Academy was perceived as a Nobel Academy, in literature.
Even though the stature of the Nobel Prize is highly regarded, and as said by in a commentary from the Economist, that no other prize has anything like the stature of a Nobel. But some do whisper the question for how much longer, and they speak about awards, other awards that kind of seem like Nobels. What did it feel to read about other awards that seem like Nobels?
Well, I think that we are being challenged, and when something like what happened with the Swedish Academy happens, that is of course an opportunity for these other prizes to, as it were, catch up. But I think that, and that's perhaps demonstrated by this case with the Swedish Academy, it's only by us ourselves not doing our work in a proper way that we really run the risk of being overrun by others. At least it will take a very long time for some other prize organization to get the same prestige as the Nobel Prize has.
So would you view the breakthrough prize with Zuckerberg or the Queen Elizabeth Prize for Engineering and other fine prizes, would you view them as competitors in a way in the landscape of awards and prizes?
Well, yes and no. I think it's a reality, that they are perceived or as competitors to us. But we are actually very open-minded. So I had several consultations with people who were setting up prices in different parts of the world, and essentially we say that there cannot be too many people who are fighting for human rights or who are putting up prices to reward science. That's a good thing in itself, and so it's not that we try to make life more difficult for the other ones. We did just need to continue to be at it ourselves.
May I ask you as a final question, is the Nobel Prize as important as it has been earlier days?
Well, I think that in a sense it's more important. First of all, it does today have a global audience, and that was not the case. I mean, if we go back 100 years ago, it was known only in some parts of Europe probably, and in North America, and now it is known all over the world. But also, and importantly, I think that we do stand for certain values. And some of those values were pretty harmless, at least in the Western world. They've always been controversial in parts of the world. Things like human rights, the importance of science, and so on. But even in our own countries, for example, we've seen during COVID now with the vaccination campaigns and so on, we see that science is being challenged. This implies that we are more important, but we also run the risk of being more controversial, perhaps.
Lars Heikensten, I thank you very much for taking your time and telling us a bit more about the Nobel Prize. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.